Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to stop in. If you're a new listener, really appreciate it. If you're a returning listener, thank you for the love and support. We're going to keep bringing it to you the way we always do. On this episode, we're going to talk all NBA. Got a lot going on in that league and in the sport of hoops. So we're definitely going to get into that. And if we're talking NBA, you know who's with me, the official hoops and NBA analyst of the Format Podcast, Andy Noel. So that's going to be some good stuff. He's going to give us his own unique takes on what he sees in terms of the draft, free agent movements, and the upcoming season. So before we get to that, let's knock out the particulars. As always, you can catch me on social media. If you're on Twitter, you can catch me at Bruce F.A. Hope. That's at Bruce F.A. Hope. If you're on Instagram, I'm also available there at The Format Podcast. That's at The Format Podcast. If you want to reach out via email, the email address is theformatpodcast@outlook.com. Theformatpodcast@outlook.com. Always look forward to hearing from you. You can tell me you love the show. You can tell me you hate the show. Wouldn't like that quite as much. But guess what? If you tell me you hate the show, that lets me know you're listening. Just tell me why, and we can discuss it. You know, I don't care what you do, love, hate, whatever. It lets me know you're listening, and I love the interaction. Okay, so thank you for that. Also, I'm introducing a new segment on the show, a mailbag segment where I can directly address your questions and comments. So if you reach out to me via social media, you can put at the end of your question or comment hashtag mailbag. That's hashtag mailbag. If you're reaching out via email, just put mailbag in all caps in the subject line, and we'll definitely do what we got to do to answer and address your questions or comments. Keep them coming. We love that. All right. While you're watching this video here on YouTube, please don't forget to click that subscribe button in the lower right corner of your screen. Okay. Also, click that bell to make sure you're notified of when new videos get posted so you can stay up to date with everything we try to bring you. And we're going to continue to try to bring you that good content, try to keep the guests coming, etc. Okay. Also, what another thing that we're working on here is we also have an audio podcast. So if you prefer listening to the content that way, we're on pretty much wherever you listen to your audio podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean, Google Podcast, etc. Okay, so you can find us on all of those. Just search The Format Podcast. All right. Um, Before you do that, though, make sure you head over to iTunes, search The Format Podcast, and rate and review, rate and review, rate and review. Give us those 5 stars. The more of those we get, the higher we rise in the rankings, and we can continue to keep giving you this quality product that we're putting out, okay? So just make sure you do that and show the love. And with all that, sit back, relax, and listen up to episode 83 of The Format. Andy, what's good, man? It's good to have you back. So you already know why you're here, so let's get to it.
Thank you for having me, of course. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Definitely. So a lot of moves in the NBA this offseason and a lot going on. The draft happened last week. We got the season starting in a little under a month, so everything is going pretty quickly. So we'll get right into it. First, let's talk the draft, Andy. First, what did you see that was interesting, and who do you think will be the big impact player in the draft? I think I don't know about impact, but definitely interesting for me. LaMelo Ball in Charlotte with Michael Jordan, and there's another angle to that we'll get to a little later. But yeah, what did you think was interesting about the draft?
So let's go in for me. Let's go in order of one, two, and three.
Okay, let's do that.
Anthony Edwards is a physical specimen.
Mm.
So I'd only really heard about him. Hadn't really seen him play. That's a big boy. Um, and I think
Well, he used to be a football player, so that might have something to
yeah,
do with it.
yeah, that speaks volumes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially, starting at the two guard, depending on what kind of veteran leadership Minnesota can get in there, he may have some impact. I was listening to someone talk about these young guys. What a lot of times what ends up benefiting these guys who have a bunch of potential is them having a veteran there to kind of teach them the ropes.
Right.
Saying something like, "Hey, I'm going to be at the gym tomorrow morning at 7:00 taking shots. Won't you come down with me?"
Mm-hmm.
And kind of taking them under their wing and showing them early in the process what it looks like to succeed, and building the habits that they need to be able to have long productive careers. And I don't know. I haven't been monitoring them to see who they have, but that would be interesting. I think he's going to be a lot better than I initially thought he was going to be, just given his physical tools, along with what he's already able to do, his comfort level with his skill set already. Now you couple that with an NBA coach, you couple that with the proper diet, you couple that with the proper player development around him. You might have the makings of a pretty good player.
Only thing I'm worried about is it's Minnesota. Like he might be a pretty good player, but is he going to get what he needs to be able to take it to the next level and maybe become special, even if the ability is there?
Again, right? It boils down. I don't know who they brought on as who they put on their team. The thing is, the current landscape of the NBA, the veteran player really gets washed out pretty quickly, right? There's no real room for the veteran player, and
You
so
know what? I disagree with that, and that's something we were going to get to in a little bit. But as you mentioned it, let's go ahead and get to it. The league is getting younger and younger in terms of just roster spots, but it seems to me that the veteran players are the ones who make more of an impact in today's NBA. A lot of the younger players
agreed.
aren't prepared to play and aren't good enough.
Agreed, but here's the problem, right? All those veteran players end up playing on one team, one or two teams, maybe three teams,
Mm.
right? So you don't have, and I'm just throwing a name out there, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have a Charles Oakley, right? That's just hanging around, or Antonio Davis, just like
Mm-hmm.
hanging
Mm-hmm.
around, taking up a roster spot and just kind of being the good locker room guy, right? There aren't very many of those guys. If you're not producing, right, you're essentially obsolete in today's NBA.
Right.
So a guy like Marc Gasol, right? Golden State was trying to bring him in there, although to remain competitive, but also to kind of help develop Marquise Chris as well as James
James
Wiseman.
Wiseman.
All right, so it's that doesn't really exist anymore in today's league, where you have guys who are essentially designated, or a guy who's successful on a team. Like if he happened to land on, Washington's team, like him going to work out with a Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal teaching him, what has allowed him to be successful in this league. You don't really have that, right? And but you look at the two guys that are there now, right? The two team leaders in wow, I see their faces and I can't come up with it. What's his name? What's the big man's name?
Oh, Carl Anthony Towns.
Cat, right? Cat
and D'Angelo Russell.
To this point, those two are not really known for their leadership.
No.
Right. So unless there's a drastic change, there could be some challenges down the road for him. So, but again, just from a skill set standpoint, as far as what physical ability, I think he has the potential to be pretty good.
Okay, so let's go to James Wiseman, number 2 pick overall. Golden State only played 7 games last year for Memphis before he got in trouble for getting some help as a high school senior from Penny Hardaway.
Yeah, that's
Um,
silly.
yeah, we're not even going to get into that. But
That's
what do we think of James Wiseman and his impact or non-impact in Golden State?
I think he'll have so as a coach, right? That big kids are usually harder to. They take a while to develop because they're growing into their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say you got a kid, you have an 11-year-old who's 6 feet tall. There's a good chance he's not going to be coordinated. So with us, the first thing with us is we'll always say, as long as you can teach him to set a pick, grab rebounds, and block shots,
Mm-hmm.
set a pick and rim run, block shots and grab rebounds, you don't need anything else from him. We'll let the rest develop. James Wiseman, if he only did that with that height, that coordination, that athleticism, he would have been a game changer for them. Now you add that to the fact that he has decent, great hands, decent shot, is capable around the rim, and now he's playing for an organization known for developing their players. I think he has a chance to be really good. I've heard Sam Mitchell say he is a more athletic version of David Robinson, at least just from the physical attributes. If this is and I listen, I trust Sam Mitchell.
Yeah,
He's
but
a
that's
professor.
probably a lot of the people listening right now didn't see David Robinson play. That dude was an absolute freak. I mean, the way he ran the floor, to say that a young big is more athletic than D-Rob is
Saying
interesting
a
to
lot.
say the least. I'll have to see that.
It's saying a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't quote everybody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I will quote Sam Mitchell.
You mean you won't quote Nick, right?
And probably not, unless I'm on a rant about nonsense.
Right.
But
yeah, Sam Mitchell.
Even and another guy, Tim Legler, kind of said the same thing.
Okay.
Right, in terms of just what you're looking at. Right, this isn't saying this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. That's not what you're saying at all. What you're saying is just at first sight on the surface, we're looking at someone who just from a physical makeup is a more athletic version, slightly more athletic version than David Robinson. So now what he turns that into is yet to be seen, but he's playing for the right organization. Okay. Right. And so I think, is he going to have meaningful minutes? It'll be determined by his productivity level. I'll tell you one thing though. He's 7'1" with like a 7'3" wingspan, and he's quick. He's athletic. He jumps out the gym, and I think he can only help.
Got it. Okay,
he's definitely no Hassan Whiteside.
Right. So at number 3 in the draft, LaMelo Ball to Charlotte Bobcats with Charlotte Hornets, right? With Michael Jordan. So the question here is, first, being that Michael Jordan drafted him, immediately you think, okay, this isn't going to work out. Michael Jordan does not have an outstanding track record in terms of evaluating talent. And so
do you mean the Charlotte GMs? Because to my understanding, Jordan doesn't play a part in the role. He either co-signs or does not. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, we're looking at previous players, Zeller, Comiskey, Kwame Brown. He's had involvement in all these guys, correct?
Kwame Brown, yeah. I think everybody else. Kwame Brown was his. I think everybody else was somebody else. I think it was Richard Cho was the last guy, I think. And now it's Mitch Kupchak, right? Who's doing the drafting. And again, right, you look at Mitch Kupchak's history, right? He's had some pluses, but he's had some minuses, but he's definitely had more pluses than minuses, right? This is the guy who's basically drafted several of the notable Lakers. So
right.
It's him doing the picking. As far as LaMelo's concerned, here's what Michael Jordan's the Charlotte Hornets' first objective is building culture and selling the franchise to the public first and to the rest of the league secondarily. So I think from a buzz standpoint, no pun intended, I think I think they won, right? People will be interested.
Mm.
Couple that with Gordon Hayward, right? I think Gordon Hayward actually adds to that buzz. So if there's no expectation that, at least from a reasonable standpoint, that Melo's going to come in here and change everything.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it's exciting and it's worth watching. And the kid is what, 18 years old? 18,
Yeah,
19
but
years
I'm
old?
just wondering, like, who's going to teach him again? Who's going to teach him how to be a pro? Who's going to tell him how to teach him how to watch film and make the right pass, especially he's going to play arguably probably the one or the two. Who's going to teach him how to do that? It's interesting, and that's another thing that we'll get to in a bit. So hang on to that.
Here's where I'll differ with you, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although that's important,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's important yet, right? Because these guys, Charlotte's not in the conversation for being a contender. That's not even on the table. They've got to build momentum. They got to get to that step, right? Now, mind you, kid's 18 years old. If he's already prepared in that regard, excellent. But it's gonna take a while for him to get there, and maybe Gordon Hayward is that veteran that teaches him how to do that.
Okay. All right. So as we mentioned earlier, the league is getting progressively younger in terms of average age, and those younger players are just seeming, for the most part, to have less and less impact. We're seeing it more, being about the veterans and free agency. So let's take it there. So there's been a fair amount of movement in terms of free agency this offseason. Now, not necessarily a lot of big names like there were last year, but still a lot of moves, right? So we're going to go through some of those. And first and foremost, not necessarily in terms of free agency, but just something I want to get you to touch on quickly before we get into the free agency stuff. The Warriors, Klay Thompson out for another season. This is now back-to-back seasons with major lower extremity injuries. Last year was a torn ACL. This time it's the ruptured Achilles in the opposite foot. Do you believe that's the end of the Golden State dynasty?
Depends, right? Golden State had a 5-year run.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 5-year run somewhere in the middle of somewhere in the beginning of their prime. I don't know what the expectation is, right? They had a 5-year run. They won 3 titles in 5 years. What else are we looking for?
Right.
I think the way that everything is reported and the hype that's around these guys, people have a tendency to not pay attention. Listen, the right move, right? The right move, the right circumstances, like you just said earlier, different veterans are really the ones that are winning the championships these days,
mm-hmm.
right? So let's just say Wiseman becomes a beast. Wiseman is just completely phenomenal player, and what's his name? Joe Lacob called him a once in a decade kind of player. Let's just say he fills that out. Now you change your offense. Now the league's kind of going back towards big man, right? So now you've changed your offense.
We'll see.
Listen, look at the Lakers, right? So you've now changed your offense to where it's more focused on him, and it's all spread out like that's more focused on him. Klay comes back, and Klay, although not the same player, but still a phenomenal shooter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now and Kelly Oubre decides to stay. Andrew Wiggins decides to stay. And this is Andrew Wiggins is stuck. So you somehow find a way to make those contracts work, and these are the guys you have. Chris becomes a player, right? Marquise Chris becomes a better player.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot who the other power forward from Villanova is. He becomes a good player, right? Somebody decides that they want to just come play on that team at the veteran minimum. You may have one more chip in you, right? You may have one more chip in you. It's because how old is Curry? Curry's 32, 31, 32?
31, I think.
31, 32. So and Klay, I think Klay is a little bit younger than him. There's still some gas in that tank, but in terms of asking, is the dynasty over? I'm like, these guys won. That dynasty's over, right? The going to the championship every year is over. They're retooling, right? They don't have the luxury of going to another. Those 3 players don't have the luxury of going to another team and pulling people pulling players off of other people's rosters in order to recreate themselves every 2 to 3 years, right? They don't have that luxury. They are a franchise. They've built a culture. They can develop from there. Um, so again, there's a lot of supposition in terms of saying what if, what if, what if. But the reality is, if Wiseman can have, if Wiseman can give them a 20% boost in productivity, Clay comes back and all those other pieces stay in place, they're a dangerous team.
Fair
And they
enough.
still have shooters.
Right. Okay, so now on the free agency part of this, or I guess the offseason movement, not necessarily free agency, but the offseason movement, this is something that really interests me, Russell Westbrook and James Harden and the future of the Rockets. So looks like both of these guys went out of Houston. James Harden wants to go to Brooklyn, and we'll get to that in a second. And Westbrook wants out so he can go be a floor general. Right. So Raphael Stone is the new GM of the Rockets, and his first offseason, his two biggest stars are very unhappy, right? But the thing with him is he's got to make sure that if he trades him, he's got to get some type of value approximating them coming back to the Rockets, right? He also can't just hold on to him if they're disgruntled, because they'll end up walking away and he'll get nothing. That's not a good look. So first, let's talk about Harden wanting to get to Brooklyn, right? We've discussed this on and off wax. You know, I believe the Nets are going to win a fair amount of games just because they're top-heavy star power with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. But I also think that they are going to end up being a complete and total dumpster fire. That's waiting to happen. So first thing, you got two max players already in Kyrie and KD. You just extended Joe Harris 4 years, $75 million. So the next question is, if you get Harden there, how do you expect to pay him?
How much was Joe Harris?
Sorry?
How much was Joe Harris's contract?
4 years, $75 million extension.
Wow.
Yeah. He got paid for being a shooter.
If you don't mind pausing, that dude was kudos to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's from UVA, right? Yeah, he's from UVA.
Yeah.
They developed him, right? Because he was, without being disrespectful, he was trash.
Well, he has a skill set that is at a premium in today's league.
He became,
get paid for that.
And he allowed himself to be developed. Their player development is second to none, right? They turn their guys into something. Kudos to him. 75. That's not bad at all. Yeah. But go ahead, you were saying.
Yeah, no. So okay, so here's the deal, right? So first, I don't know how they even pay Harden if he can get there, but I guess Joe Harris would have to be part of any deal, including Harden. He'd have to go. But even
would he really?
Levert, because you got to be able to. You have to pay all three of those guys, Harden, Kyrie, and KD. All three are maxes, so then you got to surround them with cheap role players, right? But even beyond that, in terms of the dumpster fire that I believe they will be, number one, biggest issue, and we've talked about this more than once, it's Kyrie and Steve Nash. I just don't see that working.
You have to get past that. You have to get past that until you can see it. Right now, what you're doing is speculating.
Well, that's what we're here to do, right?
No, but you're speculating because you can't stand Kyrie.
No. It's not about
because he blew up Boston.
First of all, I'm a journalist. Okay, so it's not about whether I can or can't stand Kyrie. That's not relevant. While honestly speaking, I've never been a Kyrie fan, but even beyond that, the fact is, I'm looking at this from the mindset of an elite athlete, which Kyrie is, right? The fact is, Kyrie is going to be looking when Steve Nash tells him to do something like, who you to tell me do something? I used to bust you down when we were in the league together and I played against you. Then he's going to, then it's going to be, you won 2 MVPs, but I got a chip. You can't tell me nothing. I already know how to win. Based on what we've seen from Kyrie before, this is what I believe his mindset is going to be.
But you can't. There's no way for you to quantify that, right? So listen, I will tell you, I'm not the biggest Kyrie fan, right? I think he's woefully inefficient in terms of how he plays. However, I have to consider, right? Him and KD signed off on this. Right?
KD signed off on this.
Either way. They signed off on Steve Nash being there. Kyrie has Kyrie doesn't have any real success to point to at the individual level, right? So there's some pressure in there for him to do the right thing, right?
Eh,
And and at the same time though, right, him and KD are defending one another, right? They call themselves best friends or whatever they call themselves. So
mm-hmm.
for him to now cause friction with KD's handpicked coaches now is also now him picking a fight with KD, right?
Well, no, that makes sense. But the other thing is, hearing the things Kyrie Irving has said in the past, he doesn't strike me as a dude who's is very logical. So that may or may not occur to him. But even beyond that, there's the commentary about them not necessarily needing a head coach, not needing someone who's going to come in there and call plays, because he can call the play, KD can call the play. They don't need someone to come in there and tell them to run and run practice and all that. He's the one that's made these comments that's led me to this stance. This is not about, oh, I don't like Kyrie, or he's an idiot because he thinks the world is flat. He's an idiot because he thinks the world is flat. But this is not about any of that. This is based on what I have seen and what he has said. So I'm a guy. I take the empirical evidence. He's already given it to me, so I'm applying that. Right? Yes, I'm speculating on what I see, or excuse me, on what I presume will happen, but I'm doing so based on what he's already given me.
That's fine. For me, right, I'm in wait and see mode. I
That's fine.
every you everybody is entitled to change their mind and change their perspective. I think one of the things we have a tendency to do is we forget how young these dudes are. These guys are young, right? And all of that talking, when you're a multimillionaire and you're generationally wealthy at 24, 25, 26 years old, it takes you a while to figure out that you need to shut your mouth sometimes, right?
Right.
And again, I'm not a fan of Kyrie's game, and mind you, Brooklyn is my team, right? Um,
Right.
but having said that, it's like, okay, guys, this is weird, right? As I watch
Mm-hmm.
it, this is interesting. There are some players in there, like I've always respected Steve Nash, right? Always loved Steve Nash. I always loved Steve Nash's grit, determination, and accomplishments despite his physical limitations, right? Always
Mm-hmm.
respected that. Um,
I think you have to. I'm not his
uh,
biggest fan, but I think you got to respect those things.
but the when you being able to do all of that takes a lot of navigation, right? You need to be able to navigate personalities. You need to be able to get an Amari Stoudemire on the same page. You need to get a Sean Marion on the same page, right? That takes a certain amount of charisma, know-how, and just personal skill, right? Interpersonal skill, excuse me. So I will I will trust that reasonable heads and being professional, right? The professionalism that everybody should be acquitting themselves with
Good.
is going is hopefully going to shine through if there are any
Hopefully.
problems.
So real quick, I'll say one of the things I love to say, the conditional is the most powerful tense in any language. Should, hopefully, right? These are conditional tenses, and I just don't see it. I also think there's a difference in us running on the floor together, or when stuff go bad, we're in practice together, running suicides together and all that, or running 16 17s, whatever your coach has you running, and doing all these drills and going through it all together. That's different than someone literally being in a position of superiority over you as a coach and
See, but
telling you what to do.
you're
And I
looking at
don't
that
think
wrong.
Kyrie's going to be able to handle that. I don't.
No, but none of these coaches these days are superior to anybody. The coaches, to a large degree, work for the players, right?
Mm,
It's this is no longer, okay, I'm up here and you're down here as the player,
mm,
right? It's collaborative across the board, and if
mm,
it's not collaborative, you lose your job,
mm.
right? Look at a la Brett Brown, right? And a la Nate McMillan, who had done an excellent job, right? They fired him, right? When you don't have the player, when you aren't able to get the players to buy in, that's really what your job is as a coach, to get your players to buy in. If you're unable to do that, you're going to lose your job. So the reality is it's a collaborative thing, right? It's not me telling you what to do. It's us coming up with a plan ahead of time, coming up with a game plan. And listen, by the way, even at my level, even at my level, I've got to get kids to buy in, right? Especially the older they become, the more I got to get them to buy in. Yeah, I can sit you down, but the reality is, if you're a really good player, there's a good chance that your parent may be giving me a call saying Junior's not coming back, right? We went to another program because we didn't like him being told what to do. So the reality is, it's a game that you're playing, and if that's happening at the grade school level, what do you think is happening at the NBA level, right? These dudes are paid. What do you're not getting rid of me. The company, I made $40 million a year. I ain't going nowhere. So it's, again, that's why I say I would expect Steve Nash to be able to use his skill set to be able to, his interpersonal skill set to be able to get guys to buy in. And not to say that it's going to go smoothly, but I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up working out.
Okay. All right. So let's move on from Steve Nash, Kyrie, KD, James Harden. He wants to go there.
Not going to happen.
Right. So even if it did, real quick, let me say this. My issue is Harden knows he's not the same Harden who was sixth man of the year in OKC. Kevin Durant is now an MVP and a two-time champ and a two-time finals MVP. He's not the same Kevin Durant that was in OKC. I'm not sure exactly what he would be expecting to happen if he went there. And then you got Kyrie, who always seems moody. And again, is he going to be happy being the third wheel? Because I think, as much as I'm not a Harden guy, I think you're with me on this. Kyrie is the least of those three players in terms of NBA success and skill set. Maybe not skill set, but NBA success. I think he's the least of those three guys. So he's not. He's also a guy that has to have the ball in his hands, right? KD don't care. He's just going to get buckets. But Harden is a guy that monopolizes the basketball a whole lot. So I don't know that those two, Kyrie and James Harden, could even play together.
So I think if Harden wants to, from my understanding, is these guys have been working out in LA all summer, so there's a familiarity amongst three already.
Okay.
As well as far as going back to, I forgot which Olympics it was, but they also go back there. I think here's the thing, though. I think what Harden has that Kyrie does not is Kyrie. I mean, Harden can play off the ball. He just doesn't. Kyrie can't play off the ball. Right, because Harden could distribute. If you can take it back to when he played for OKC, Harden was essentially the de facto point guard, right? And was not dribbling as much, didn't need as many dribbles. But again, right, if I become the focal point of the offense, now that changes how I play. But having that skill set to be able to do as much, right? It's being able to ratchet up and dial back is all contingent on what your skills allow you to do. I think he can ratchet up and dial back. I don't think Kyrie can. And I think KD also, right? I think now KD's going to be the focal point of the offense. So now there really becomes who's going to be the second and the third guy. But that may change depending on the circumstances. Again, that's going to
the matchup
and that's also coaching, right? What is the coach? To me, it's not about personalities, right? It's okay, how does this work or does not work, right? If I have reasonable guys who understand, listen, I can't have you dribbling the ball 60 times per possession. We're going to need to be able to move the ball quickly. We need to make decisions, so on and so forth. And it's this guy's night tonight. If the coach is able to get everybody's buy-in, it shouldn't be a problem.
I don't think, especially as a rookie head coach, I don't know that Nash will be able to do that. Again, I don't believe Kyrie will accept that. And thirdly, Harden being who he is and how he's played over the last several years, I don't know that he would either. But, hey, time will tell. Time will tell, one, whether or not he gets to Brooklyn. Time will tell, two, if he gets to Brooklyn, how that works out. So
I think Brooklyn has moved on. I think I read that. Brooklyn has moved on.
All right. So next up, the other half of the Rockets situation. Briefly tell me about Russell Westbrook. The last time we talked, you said that you thought Charlotte would be a fit. Now, since they drafted LaMelo Ball, that looks like a terrible fit because those are Westbrook and Ball are two guys who need Spalding in their hands constantly, right? Who would have the ball in that situation? And again, like I mentioned earlier, LaMelo Ball wouldn't be in a position to learn how to play the right way at the position with Russell Westbrook on the team. Your thoughts?
So as an aside, I've heard that there is no market for Russell Westbrook.
I've heard that
That's one of
too.
the
Number
reasons.
one, how he
Him
plays,
and
and number two, that prohibitive contract.
him and Oladipo, there is no market for either one of them.
Same with John Wall. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, forgot about him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I thought before the signing of Haywood, and even with Melo, I thought he would be good for Charlotte because he'd be doing the same thing that those guys are doing, which is
Mm-hmm.
putting butts in the seat.
Yeah.
As I said in our last pod, there's no expectation for Russell Westbrook to win a championship at all. Not even on anybody's roster, right? It's he does not possess the skill set to be able to play, to be a component, a major component on anybody's championship roster. That being said, if you're looking for empty calories, you want to put him on your put him on your roster to get people to watch. Oh, absolutely. He's exactly what you need. He's exactly what Charlotte would need, but Charlotte probably has taken care of that now. So the only place I see that he would actually work is just for that purpose specifically is New York. But given that Tom Thibodeau is a no-nonsense guy.
I just read this morning that the Knicks aren't particularly interested because of that contract.
Oh boy, see, even better, right? So so there's no market for this dude. He should have consulted with his agent before putting it out there that he wanted to be traded.
Yeah. And you also should have thought about this. I'm not denigrating a guy getting paid, but you got to think about these things when you take the money, how it's going to affect you down the road. But I guess you look at it like, hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I still got paid. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way. See, a guy like him, he should, right? Because there's no championships on the horizon for him, right? It's so you might as well be here to get your money.
But you hear about he wants to win so bad. That's why he plays so hard.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Again, right? I've seen you know kids like that talk a great game, but can't. Here's the problem with a guy like him. When his athleticism goes, he'll be useless.
Useless. Yeah.
Completely useless, right? Like tits on a bowl. Excuse me. Sorry. I guess I shouldn't beep that out. But he's literally like there would be no purpose for him because he doesn't have this. There's nothing about his game that says, wow, there's a redeeming quality here. Nothing at all. He's fast. He's aggressive. And
he's explosive.
And he's explosive.
Right.
When that goes, there'll be no purpose. And you and I aren't the only ones that see that.
So next topic, we'll take it a little bit to one of my personal favorites that I have some interest in. The Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum took that 5-year, $195 million. I'm not going to call that a super max, but it's a rookie max extension to stay in Boston. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? We've seen this guy get better and better and better, keep climbing, expanding his game over his time in the NBA. And they had to pay him because he just kept improving. I think he's all NBA, maybe third team last year. And you've seen some explosions that let you know this guy's really special. His skill set is very good. I don't know how much of a defender he is. Offensively, his game is pretty complete. So you have to pay him. But is he a guy that can get you over the hump? And I say that the Celtics have been to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times in the last 4 years. Yes, they're young. Yes, he's young. I'm wondering, though, is he a guy that can get you there? Maybe not to a championship, but at least out of the conference, right? And I know it's not just about one guy, but for that type of money, for me, he's got to be the type of guy that can carry a franchise.
He doesn't even know what he is yet.
You don't think he knows yet?
He doesn't even, he has no, I would venture to say he's 40% of what he'll be.
I think he knows how special he is and how special he can be. I think he knows.
Nope. You see the hesitation. He's still hesitating. He still doesn't know when to go. He doesn't believe in what I watch him a lot. He's still figuring out where his spots are. He doesn't know what he is yet. What? How old is he? What is he, 23? Is he?
4 years in the league, 23. Yeah.
Look for him in 3 years.
All right.
He is going to be a dominant offensive force. Dominant. He's 6'9", and I don't know what his wingspan is right off the bat, with a high release jump shot and a handle, and he's athletic. He hesitates. I don't know if it was you I was talking to. Might have been my other buddy. There's moves where it's like, bro, what are you waiting for? You had him go. There is a he's still walking into what he's gonna be.
Okay.
He is, if Jaylen Brown is here, Jason Tatum's here. And Danny Ainge knows what he's looking at. Danny Ainge we're not even going to play around with this. I'm going to give this dude his money now.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, this cat is still figuring out. At 23 years old, he's already dominated. He's already dominated players. He dominated the Lakers. He took LeBron on. LeBron ran from him and put AD on him, right? And he killed AD. What did he go for, 51 in that game?
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
And this is, again, you're looking at a player who you're saying to yourself, okay, this dude, this cat hasn't even figured it out yet. 4 years in the league, he's not even close.
Okay.
He's about, give it 3 years, and he's going to be running, barring injury, he's going to be running through people.
Okay. So next move for the Celtics, Tristan Thompson is headed to the Celtics. 2 years, $19 million. So
that's a good move for them.
So you say that's a good move, right? Now, knowing me, being a Celtics fan, and I have lamented this to you time and time again, how much their lack of rebounding and their insistence on shooting a ton of threes. I know that's the modern game, but their insistence on shooting a ton of threes and lack of rebounding is bothersome to me, because if they were a better rebounding team, they would have beaten Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. 2020 hindsight. But
if they had an answer for Bam Adebayo, they would have beaten, and they just found that answer.
So, but here's my problem. He can't shoot. He's going to rebound, and he's going to provide toughness, but he can't shoot, so he's probably not going to be a starter, and that's going to blunt his effectiveness, right? He's going to come off. He's going to be with the second unit. And Brad Stevens, as much as I think he's a really smart young coach, it really irks me the way he won't adhere to that simple basketball tenet of no rebounds, no rings. Like, I know Pat Riley popularized the phrase, but it's key. If you do not rebound, you cannot win.
It is. You're looking at the game 5 years ago. Tristan Thompson, and I'm not even a fan of his, right? But I respect his game.
Right.
Tristan Thompson can switch off to smaller players. He can rim protect. He can grab rebounds, and he can finish. You don't need him shooting threes. You don't need him shooting. He's a capable free throw shooter, and he has a decent basketball IQ. They upgraded tremendously from what they had. He's mobile.
From Kanter?
He's he's a
better
tremendously
defender than Kanter, but Kanter's an outstanding offensive rebounder, which to me is something you need when you're playing bombs away from the perimeter all the time.
So did you see how much Kanter contributed in the playoffs? He barely even played.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that either when I'm watching the Celtics getting killed on the boards every game.
Yeah, but here's the problem though, right? So the trade-off is, okay, yeah, we grab a couple of rebounds, but Bam Adebayo is killing us because Enes Kanter can't move his feet. Right? So the trade-off becomes, okay, you're not gonna check every box, right? You're just not.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I got a guy who's mobile enough to go out there and grab to be able to switch off the smaller players and the bigger players, protect the rim, grab a few and Tristan Thompson is a monster rebounder. He is.
But again, now to your point, maybe I am looking at this from a past perspective, because I'm saying, if I got a guy who's an outstanding rebounder, right? And I'm not saying Enes Kanter is the rebounder the caliber of Tristan Thompson. He's not, but he's a very good rebounder when he's on the floor. But what I'm saying is, he's going to rebound for me. If I know he's going to give us defensive problems, then, hey, scheme the defense to help him. It seems that simple to me. We've seen that. We've seen that time and time again through the years.
He's got slow feet. The negatives on him. And again, I'm neither here or there with Kanter. I kind of like him, I guess.
Yeah, I like him
I
too.
don't dislike him,
Right.
but he's stiff, right? He in my opinion, I don't think he's in the league 2 years from now, right?
Mm,
Because he's stiff and the negatives on him are pretty bad,
mm.
right? There is, you run a point guard at him, you put a pick and roll, you run a point guard on him, your defense collapses, right? So at the end of the day, if I'm the opposing coach, all I do is run my point guard at you all day long and see what you're able to do, right?
And if
And
again,
so
if I'm the coach, if I'm the coach facing the pick and roll, I guess this is my issue, is that I'm not an adaptive thinker from the coaching side, because I'm looking at it and I've seen for years, we've seen very simple things that have worked. If stop switching everything, stop switching everything.
can't you can't. So here's the way the NBA is currently configured, or the formula they use. You need to be able to guard your yard. You need to be able to guard your space around you. So when that switch happens and we recover, you're able to at least hold it for that long. He couldn't hold it for that long.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
he's automatically dog food, right? We got him. I don't care who it is. We're gonna blow right past him, and now the help comes faster. Now that side opens up, the corner shot opens up, or the skip pass opens up,
Right.
because this dude couldn't guard his yard. You saying to yourself, okay, listen, at the end of the day, this guy is antiquated. Yeah, he gives us a couple of rebounds, but he also opens up the 3-point line for the other team too regularly, too routinely for us to be comfortable with. So therefore, if I have to choose between Tristan Thompson and
And it's Cantor.
Enes Kanter, it's Tristan Thompson every day of the week
Okay.
and twice
All
on
right.
Sunday.
I don't have an objection with that. What I'm saying is,
And
I
he's
don't know
younger.
if Brad Stevens is going to take advantage of that. That's my thing. And I like Brad Stevens as a coach, but I don't know.
But
Yeah.
here's another thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to do this, getting all of his work off of the boards, right? So you don't have to
You don't
draw
have
up
to
any
run
plays
anything
for him
for him. Yeah.
at all, right? This
All right.
dude, he's a junkyard, an athletic junkyard dog who is he's only 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like 6'10".
Mm-hmm.
You're getting more out of him. You're getting significantly more out of him,
Okay.
especially being able to play smaller players, right? So now when he gets switched off to a smaller player, that's not your defense isn't in collapse panic mode. You now know this dude could at least guard his yard long enough for us to make our rotations.
Okay. Fair enough. So let's move from the East Coast and take it all the way over to the West. Donovan Mitchell got the same deal in Utah that Jason Tatum got in Boston, that 5-year, $195 million extension. Where are you on that? And what do you see about Utah? You think they took a step back this offseason? Because they were one of the
Utah's
young
kind of
teams in
always
the
in the
West
same
that
mode.
were kind of working to, kind of fight forward and become better. What do you think?
Utah needs a quality small forward to be taken serious. I think Don Mitchell got what he deserved, but I think his ceiling is a lot lower than Tatum's. But I think he was going to get that anyway. You got to pay him. This dude's been getting busy. He kind of came up small when Denver made their run back. But I just think he had no gas in his tank.
Yeah, Game 7 against
I
Denver,
just think he ran out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
But you admire the fact that he's got the moxie and wanted to run with it and wanted to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was willing to take it on. You got to admire that, but you also take into account that he is. I don't know how much better he's going to get. That being said, that's not saying much because he's really, really good. But I don't know how much better he's going to get.
I think the biggest thing to your point about is they had to pay him. It might be less how good he is and more who are you going to get to come play in Utah if you let this guy out of there.
That's really what it boils down to. I think if they get a quality small forward, they have the decent point guard. I think Joe Ingles is a bench player. And Joe Ingles starting at your 3 is a problem. You need a more athletic wing. You get that for him, a decent guy who can give you who can give you an athletic 17 points at that position, and I think Utah becomes a contender. Other than that, they're just kind of who they are.
Okay. Next up, Avery Bradley, who it was made a big deal about when he didn't go into the bubble with the Lakers, has now decided to leave the Lakers for the Heat, who coincidentally also lost Jay Crowder. I think that move is interesting, and what I think is interesting about it pretty much leaves LeBron as the sole ball handler on that team, which, if we're being
Who else
honest,
was the
that's
ball?
exactly how he
Who else
likes
was?
it.
I was gonna say, who else was the ball handler?
Well, you had last season, you had Avery Bradley, you had KCP do it a little bit, and of course you had Rondo. So Rondo is now gone. He's going to Atlanta. I'm not sure what that was about. Well, that was about the money.
What's
He's
going to
going
be
to
interesting?
Atlanta.
What's going to be
Avery Bradley's in Miami now. Now they got Schroeder, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But yeah, that's interesting. So Avery Bradley leaving the Lakers for the Heat. What do you see behind that? You see anything there?
That's essentially a wash. That's a wash, right? Except Crowder's a little taller.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have
6'9". Avery
somebody.
Bradley 6'3", 6'2". Yeah.
Is Crowder 6'9"? I thought he was more 6'7". Okay.
Yeah, 6'8", 6'9". Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but now you have more. You have a steady hand, a steady shooter. You add another 3-point shooter to the mix, and you add a defensive presence, right? A gritty player that to go along with Jimmy Butler's grit, right? So in my opinion, right, he's kind of in that he's a shorter version, a shorter, less athletic version, just from an attitude standpoint of Jimmy Butler. You know, guys who are tough as nails and who know how to put the work in. That being said, I don't know if he's a difference maker, but he's a key component. I don't think Miami makes it out of. I think if Miami goes against Boston right now, currently configured, I think Miami loses in 6 games. Yeah, because Bam Adebayo was the difference maker for Boston. They just found an answer for Bam. So Jason Tatum still coming into his own. If he makes a leap, as much as I'm a fan of Jimmy Butler can't do anything with that dude. And you just got rid of Crowder. You don't have an answer for that dude.
Right.
So it's it'll be interesting, and not to mention we'll see what other moves come down the pike for Philadelphia. We didn't discuss them. But we'll see what other moves come down the pike for them. But they should be interesting as well.
So I actually wasn't really I didn't have Miami on the talking points, but as you did, real quick, can Jimmy Butler get any better than what we saw during this playoff run?
Jimmy Butler played above.
He maxed it out, huh?
He played the best I've ever seen him. I watched most of his career, right, from Chicago.
Yep.
But I also think it's who was defending him. Right. Surprise. I mean, if you do the math, every time that dude is defending somebody in the finals, that person has stellar finals. So Jimmy Butler.
We'll leave that alone.
Jimmy Butler had never had a triple double in his life, and he got 2 in the finals.
Very interesting.
But listen again. It's another guy, right? Turned himself into what he is, and I don't know if you're not going to see that all season long. You're just not.
Right.
But hopefully they got him some firepower, right? Hopefully the other players come along, right? The other the rookies get become more solidified, and some of the other moves they make, such as Avery Bradley, ends up paying off. Bam Adebayo, figures himself out a little bit more, and becomes more comfortable. They should be tough. They should be tough to deal with.
All right, let me ask you this. Now you just created another question for me. I'm hearing Bam Adebayo. Tell me what's so special about Bam Adebayo, because no disrespect, I don't see it. I think he's good. I don't think he's special. What's so special about this guy?
He's an all-around skilled big man. Right? You can play. He's a more athletic version of Draymond Green, and and younger version of Draymond Green, so he can grab and go, right?
Mm,
He can initiate offense. When you're big, when you're center slash power forward can initiate offense
mm,
um, off the rebound, that allows the pressure to just come off of everybody else. Now everybody gets to do what they want. Everybody gets to play a different position and can play more freely, right? It can get their shooters open. You can start your offense quicker when you have your big bringing the ball up. And now you don't have to worry about your point guard getting picked up full court. He's agile. He gives you a little bit of everything, right? He's a rim protector. He's a rebounder. He's got a nice mid range game. Um, he's a help defender. So he checks a lot of boxes for them. So and he's athletic and he's young.
fair enough.
So
Okay. So the Bucks, we've
yeah,
talked a lot about them this offseason, trying their best to make moves to keep Giannis there. Robin Lopez is going to Washington. They get Drew Holiday from the Pelicans. They've made a couple of moves. Where do you think they are in terms of solidifying the team? Do you think they win the East this year? Do you think, again, I keep asking you this, have you heard or seen anything that would make you think that Giannis is really less enthused about staying in Milwaukee?
here's the problem with the way the way that argument, the way not the way the argument, the way the premise is framed.
Mm,
The team doesn't get better. The team will not succeed unless Giannis gets better.
that's
So no
true.
matter who they put around him, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who they put around him. The team won't succeed or get better until he gets better as a player. There are glaring weaknesses in his game, and I'm a Giannis fan. There
Mm-hmm.
are glaring weaknesses in his game, shortcomings in his game that disallow the team from being able to succeed. Right? He is a different version of LeBron James, where he needs other players to be great in order for his greatness to be accentuated. He's a lesser version of LeBron James, right? He can check a bunch of boxes, but at the end of the game, when you need him to deliver, he's not going to be able to deliver. He's got to go to somebody else, and no matter who you put around him, to me, right, as I said before on a previous pod, the personnel that would work for him prior to Clay getting hurt would have been Golden State, right? Where you're playing in a freewheeling offense and you have all the space in the world to operate. So those weaknesses aren't as glaring when you're playing in a spread offense. But when you have an Eric Bledsoe as your point guard, or what's the other guy's name?
Now it's Drew Holiday.
But Hill, George Hill. When you got those guys like, oh, even Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is not the shooter they say he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a Drew Holiday fan. I don't think this is that big of a deal, to be honest with you. I think it's a nice gesture, but I really don't think you've moved the needle any.
Fair enough.
I think it would have been smart for him to ask for a trade.
All right. So I'll stop here because there's too many moves to get into one by one. I'm not going to go down the line on that. But let me ask you this. What team do you see so far as having made the best roster moves? And before we do that, much as I hate to say it, number one, as a Celtics fan, looks like the Lakers did some good things. They got Montrezl Harrell. They got Marc Gasol. Now, I'm not quite sure what the big deal is and why everyone is so happy with Dennis Schroeder, but a lot of people seem to think that that's a big move, and I don't think he's going to have nearly the impact that a lot of other people think, especially in terms of we know what generally happens to productive perimeter players when they get with LeBron. So I'm curious to know what's the big deal with that. So first, give me your thoughts on the Lakers, and then overall, what team do you see having made the best roster moves this offseason so far?
So, contrary to popular belief. I don't necessarily believe that the Lakers really like. Wesley Matthews is a good pickup for them because he's a 3-and-D guy.
3-and-D, yeah.
Marc Gasol is a great high post passer, but LeBron playing with a 7-footer is that's never worked,
It's true.
right? And you've
Well,
gotten rid of
people are gonna say it works with AD.
AD's a small forward,
Right.
that shoots 3-pointers.
Mm.
Dennis Schroeder, in my opinion, I don't see their games meshing. Dennis Schroeder needs the ball and needs to be able to move and operate without all of that noise around him, right? Unless he's coming off the bench, I don't really see I don't see the fit. You have Marc Gasol, who we watched him play in Toronto, essentially looked like a shell of himself. What made the Lakers tough last year was their shot blocking, that all that length and that rim protection.
Right.
You just got rid of two of the guys who were protecting your rim. Right. If I go ISO on Marc Gasol as a point guard or as a 2 guard or let's just use Jason Tatum. Right. What do you do then? Right. So it's because all you got to do is pass one guy, right? You get past one guy. AD, listen, you stretch your defense out, and it's literally like you got rid of 2 guys that were mobile enough to protect the rim, and now all you have is these other guys. So I think they gave up defense for offense.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe additional bench scoring is kind of where I was seeing.
And Montrezl Harrell is a hustle player. He's a 6'7" hustle and grit player. The idea that he's going to be a difference maker, if you're going to tell me, so we can kind of move into the next thing, right? Do I want him or do I want Serge Ibaka? I want Serge Ibaka, right? And every day of the week and maybe 3 times on Sunday, right? I don't know how much a lot of their moves sound splashy. I don't know how well those pieces work together, right? Given where we were, right? So give me a lineup with Marc Gasol, with Gasol, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Dennis Schroeder,
KCP.
and KCP.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of bigs, right? That's 3 big dudes. That's two power forwards / small forwards and a center. Where all y'all playing?
Yeah. Yes.
And by the way, you can't clog the paint up.
No, not playing with LeBron, you can't.
And you can't throw no alley-oops to Marc Gasol. He's not gonna fly.
No, you're not. Fair enough. So, okay, so then what team do you see having made the best roster moves so far this offseason?
Phoenix made some good moves.
Chris Paul and
Crowder.
Yep. Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's not going to result in anything, but it'll make them more competitive.
They're not going to win a chip, but they'll be interesting.
Yes.
The Clippers. He's what's his name's a big get. Ibaka's a big get.
Yeah.
Ibaka's a trouble. He's a difference maker.
He maybe can match up with at least one of the Lakers bigs at a time. Yeah, and he can still run the floor.
Listen,
and he can still hit a jump shot.
AD isn't. First and foremost, he will muscle AD around the bench. I mean, around the bucket. That's going to happen, right? Then AD's not going to be sitting there, shooting these fadeaways all over him. That's not going to happen.
Right.
AD struggles with length, right? So that's going to be a switch that has to happen. Again, as I said, in my opinion, let's just say, and I heard this, that they were interested, and this is about a week ago, that they were interested in getting Kyle Lowry. If they were able to get Kyle Lowry, they're, in my opinion, the prohibitive champs. And they would have nullified every move the Lakers made. The Lakers look great on paper. I just don't see how it works together.
Right.
And by the way, we've seen this before. Somebody will get traded. There might be 6 guys on the move.
Are you trying to say LeBron James gets guys traded? Is that what you're saying, Andy?
There might be 6 guys on the move come January. If this thing don't go right. We've seen it done before.
We've seen it done.
We've seen wholesale
rosters,
changes.
right? A whole different team after the All-Star break.
I need a playmaker. Yeah.
All right. So Andy, man, as always, thank you for coming through, sharing your unique perspective with us and talking some hoops and giving me that knowledge here on the Format Podcast, man. I appreciate it.
Good chat, man. I appreciate the opportunity. This is always cool.
Absolutely, man. You take it easy.
All right, talk soon.